I just saw the movie a couple of days ago. I love it. I mean, I've been watching Beverly Hills Cop movies my whole life, so it's a treat to get to talk to you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, what's one question that you always get asked that you secretly wish no one would ever ask again?
Probably, does a banana in the tailpipe really work? Um, in the original script, it was a potato, and Eddie thought that banana, which it is, banana is a funnier word than potato. But I don't believe that works. I think MythBusters dispelled that myth. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole about a banana in a tailpipe, but that's the thing that people love that gag, and the director was after us at every turn to reprise that, and Eddie's like, "No, man, that banana is going to stay in 1984."
Well, I mean, he did convince him to wear the Detroit Lions jacket, so getting the banana might have been asking a little too much. Now, in what way do you feel like Billy has most matured in the 30 years since we saw him last?
I think Axel represented really the kind of career that he really wanted, that Billy really wanted. And I think Axel's really rubbed off on him. He's a lieutenant now, which would mean practically in reality that he would oversee a lot of cases and oversee a lot of uh, basically a supervisory position. But this is one case that he, for various reasons, has to take on himself and goes down quite a dark hole with it. And Axel comes back to well, to protect his daughter, who he's estranged from. So he has to try to salvage that relationship and find me at the same time.
Billy's trajectory throughout the whole franchise is like my favorite of any of the characters, just because like I
Ah,
think about in like part two where you've got the trench coat on and you hold up the two shotgun. I just think
yeah.
that's the funniest thing because you can tell how badly he wants to be, like you said, like Axel. He wants to be an action hero, and I just love it. And he is really. I mean, he kicks ass.
Well, yeah, but I think it was, I love Don Simpson, who's no longer with us. He wanted to see Billy go off the rails, and he almost did, with all of that. I think Tony Scott did too. Tony and Don were both fans of that kind of weaponry at that time,
Mhm.
and kind of macho, and so. Yeah, it was fun to go off the rails a little bit. That rocket launcher scene is my favorite.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, I literally just watched all four movies with my son just a couple of days ago. He's
Oh, wow.
17. Don't worry, he's old enough now. So
Well, I'm curious. Can I ask you, how did he like the new one, the 17-year-old?
oh, he loves it. He thought it was great.
Really?
Yeah, he likes it just as much. Like the first one is his favorite, but he said he likes it just as much as like two and three. I actually like three a lot. Like I know three gets like kind of like crapped on a little bit, but I maybe it's because I grew up with it or whatever. But I thought three is so much fun, and he liked it too. So now, if you were to write your own memoir, like what might be the funniest Eddie Murphy story you'd include in it from your time together filming Beverly Hills Cop?
I guess the odd way that we met was at a strip club in the first one. That was our first day of work, and we were thrown together in this little table with some beer nuts and naked women all around us. And we got to know each other in that situation. We were really thrown together. But as awkward as that was, the three of us it just worked. This chemistry started working, and we found our way with each other, you
I
know.
love that. That's a great place to develop a bromance with anybody. Um,
That's true. That's true.
now, I apologize in advance for this question, but this is just something I'm personally curious about. But do you still have the Oscar Mayer weenie whistle?
Oh, I have many, Chris. I have many. I have many thoughtfully sent to me, lovingly sent to me. The original, we make fun of. We have it in a glass case, and then it says, and it's hanging by monofilament wire, and it says, do not move, alarm will sound. So when people come into the house for Christmas, they think that, this thing is revered, you know.
I love the idea that you have the Oscar Mayer weenie whistle under like state of the art security. Um, Last question. I work for Comic Book. I'm a big nerd, clearly, with all this grown man boy stuff behind me. I was just curious if over the years you'd ever been approached or had discussions about appearing in any comic book films because you're somebody who's, you haven't really done one yet.
I guess I'm considered a capeless hero. No, I haven't been, and maybe that's why. I don't know why, but I'm happy that Capeless Heroes are back, obviously, and I'm happy that actually live action comedies are back. I mean, there is comedy in the superhero movies, no doubt, but I think in large part comedies were appropriated by animation, and I'm I feel like I'm in the live action comedy world, so I guess maybe that's why. Like I'm just another genre. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
sir, you're a hero to me, and that's all that matters, really.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So thank you, man. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said,
Oh
I love
man,
TV.
Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate
So
it.
glad you listen. I have to say, I'm really delighted that your 17-year-old liked the movie because we're excited about that. We're excited about a new audience.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you watch something like because obviously there's movies that I love from the 80s that I grew up with and and I have made him watch them and they don't age so well for him
Yeah.
and he doesn't get it. But the
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, he loved it. He thought he
Ah,
I mean, I could tell that he loved it because he watched all four of them with me. So
oh wow, that turns us on. I can tell you.
I
You
have
know
to
what
be able to do
excites
that for
me?
you.
It excites me that they'd go back, especially if they went and watched the first one, because I'm so proud of the first one. And I think it's really satisfying. And the idea of people discovering that movie is exciting for us.
Yeah, well, I'm doing my part, man. He loved it. So
Thanks, buddy.
thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
dude. I appreciate it. Have a great day and safe travels to you.
Thanks. Thank you.
I want to say it's good to see you again. I've been keeping up with the What If Alien series, so I'm looking forward to the final book next month. Big surprise. I've been keeping up with it. Um, Now, it's been 40 years since the first Beverly Hills Cop, so I was curious, like, what's your Pavlovian response today when you hear the Axel F theme?
Oh, I don't go around humming it in my day-to-day life, but when the movie opens and you hear it, you just go, "Oh, we're in it." It's so powerful. Um, that boom, boom, bum, ba-da-da. It's like instantly. I mean, I thought they really did a great job in the movie. There's such a strong connection, and I didn't quite appreciate how deep people's connection was with the franchise until people started talking about this. And it's been 2 years since we shot it, so they've been there's a lot of buildup. And I go, oh, it's not just, oh, that'll be fun. No, people can't wait to see it. And when it comes out, it's a hard, narrow needle to thread. It's like you want to bring back what people love, but you don't want to just redo it. And I thought they did a really great job. And part of it was they didn't try, they updated it. So Eddie is not the brash 22-year-old kid. It's a different energy. He's still the same character and the same problems. But, at the heart of it, he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. Like, that's not something you would have imagined 40 years ago. And the first day, my first day in the movie was Eddie's first day. It was, I think, the first or second day they shot. And we got into that car when I dropped him off at the airport. And we're just, the doors are closed and we're between takes and we're going, it's 40 freaking years. Oh my God. And here we are. In one way it's surreal, but it also felt like a wonderful continuity because like he doesn't seem like he's aged. He's just as funny. He's just as magnetic. And you see him on screen and it's a whole other thing. It's like, man, this guy is made for the spotlight.
Now, I wanted to bring up, you recently co-wrote a memoir with Michael McDonald, which
Yes.
I'm very excited. I want to check it out. It's on one of my lists. But so if you wrote your own memoir, what might be like the funniest Eddie Murphy story you'd include in it from your time together making Beverly Hills Cop?
You know, the amazing thing is, I had very few actual days of work. I think I worked 2 days on this one, maybe 2 days on the first one. The second one was a little more. And the second one, a lot of my stuff was in Detroit doing stuff and not
Yeah, you
with
get to
Eddie.
hang out with that Ferrari all day.
Yeah, with a Ferrari that I didn't know how to drive. They go, well, just make that the joke that idiot doesn't know how to drive. I went, yeah. And I actually took a lesson. That's what it said. Like I spent a day learning. I went, yeah, I still don't know how to do it. Drive a stick. So I go, well, all right, well, that'll be the joke that you're an idiot and you're braking every 5 seconds. Um, you know, I was telling somebody the other day, the if there's one thing that I'll get most frequently out in the world is people come over to me and will reference the line from Beverly Hills Cop 1 in the locker room where I go, hey, this is not my locker. And it it's so striking to me because that was such a throwaway line that I actually made up because I didn't know how to get out of that scene. It was I'm talking to Eddie, the boss comes in, and it's like, and it doesn't say Jeffrey exits. I went, well, I can't stand here for the whole thing. So I just sort of busied myself. And then I went, all right, at some point, I got to get the hell out. And I just said, hey, it's not my locker. And I exit. In fact, I think I'm off camera for half of that one sentence. But for some reason, that has stuck to the point that people will used to do. I've had people come do variations on it that I didn't understand. I'd be at the airport and somebody goes, hey, that's not my suitcase. I went, what are you talking about? It's my suitcase. Oh, you're doing a joke. Okay. I mean, like it took me a minute to catch on. But that speaks to the power of how deeply impactful this movie was. People watched it a lot. People watched it many times. And you just pick that poster is that poster. I remember seeing that poster in Stranger Things in the video stores. Like, yes, that was what you would see. That Beverly Hills Cop thing was so ubiquitous all over the world. So I'm glad they did this new one, and I'm glad it came out as well as it did. And it totally hearing that music and seeing Eddie and seeing Judge and John Ashton and Bronson. It was really great. It was really it sort of checked every box. It's like, oh, here they are. Yep, see
On
that guy.
on
See
the
that guy.
subject of those guys, I love the new movie. It's so much fun, but I think you guys have to make at least one more so Jeffrey and Serge can finally meet. Uh,
Yes. Yeah,
because
I have to get on a plane. Maybe I retired at Beverly Hills because, that was sort of inherent reality and restriction is that I'm in Detroit, so I'm not where the movie is happening. But yeah, I'd love to play with Bronson. He's so funny, man.
yeah,
He's
that's why
so
I was
funny.
curious. Are there any actors from the Beverly Hills franchise that to this day you never got to meet? Since Jeffrey's always stuck in Detroit and they're in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, no, I only met him. I only met them at these kind of events and publicity things. Uh, a judge reminded me that we once were on the same flight and we got to hang out a little bit on a LA to New York flight. But I remember something, and I was telling John Ashton this, um, and I'm trying to remember which way it went. I think when we were doing Mad About You, and I was trying to get John Ashton to do something, and I'm talking to him, and I got his number, and I was talking to him, and I made some reference to Beverly Hills Cop, and about 2 or 3 minutes in, he goes, "I think you want John Ashton." I said, "Well, who's this?" He says, "John Aston, Sean Aston's father." I went, "Oh, well, you know what? You're good too. You're good." And I can't remember if it was the other way, if who I was looking for, because John Aston, Sean's father, actually did a really really funny episode of Mad About You. He played basically himself. He played the guy was like he lives in our building, and it's like, hey, isn't that the father from the Addams Family? It's like, and he never says yes, he never says no. We're like, I think that's the guy. So maybe it was the other way. Maybe I was looking for John Aston. I got on Ashton, but it's like it's such a Hollywood moment. It's like, oh, I got another really terrific actor on the phone by accident. Let's go with you.
Thank you for your time, by the way. One last question for you, and it's a
Yes.
side note, is I want to say I think The Boys is probably my favorite TV show right now. So I wanted
Yeah.
to know, I was curious if there's been any discussions about a possible appearance from the legend on the fifth and final season coming up.
Yeah, there's been talk about that. I think there is something they're writing for me. Um, that was so fun. Another one of those, it's not my kind of show. And like famously, I told my son, who's now writing these Marvel Aliens comics, and the fifth one actually is the one that he wrote solo. One of the other ones he co-wrote, and he contributed to all of them, but that one was his solo writing credit. So I'm excited for him. But I had not, when I got offered the role on The Boys, I had not only not seen it, hadn't heard of it, and I said, "Hey, do you know about this show, The Boys? They want me to be on it. What do you know about it?" He says, "Oh, it's great, comma, and you'll hate it." And I went, "Why would I hate it?" He goes, "Just watch." And I remember watching and go, oh, wow, this is way over the top. But in short order, I saw like, oh, they're not just being, they're not just stretching it for the sake of it. That's the point of it. It's so over the top and graphic and funny and smart. Yeah, and the role was really funny. And I go, "Well, what's the role? What's the title? What's the guy called?" "The Legend." I went, "Sold." He's like, "Okay, that's pretty cool." And I think I did 2 or 3 days on that. But it's so visible. I remember I was shooting this movie, coming out in October called The Problem with People that I wrote, and it stars me and Colomini, who you probably know from a thousand things, but he was the original Scotty in the Star Trek movies. But I was there, this is 2 summers ago, and so I'm on the other side of the world, and it was like within 1 week or so, Stranger Things season, I guess 3 or whatever it was, came out, or 4, and then The Boys, and I was so surprised at how recognized I was on the streets of Dublin. I know they have TVs, I know Netflix is all over the world, but I just hadn't experienced that, and I went, man, these shows have reach, and it's at the same time, I shouldn't be so surprised by it, but people, I mean, that's their intent now. Everybody's aiming for these global hits, and I've been really kind of fortunate to be on a couple of these things that are globally embraced. Stranger Things is. I remember when I did season 2, which I got to join after it was already an established hits. Like, well, that's a no-brainer. Thank you. Yes, and I remember the premiere. They did a live hookup with like 10 countries: South America, Asia, Middle East. It was like all having big Stranger Things parties. I'm going, what is this? I've never witnessed this kind of global simultaneous launch. It's a big deal. So yeah, the fact that I get to play in these things is ridiculous.
Jerry, Mark, how are y'all doing today?
Good, Brandon. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you again, Jerry, Mark. Pleasure to meet you.
Where are you? It looks like it's dark. Where are you? Where are you?
This is my home studio. I'm in Nashville. It's about
All right.
6 o'clock here, so the sun's going down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
cool.
I'm excited to talk to you guys. I had fun watching this movie. And Mark, this is your feature directorial debut, and I think it's really cool to take that step in a franchise. This is the 4th Beverly Hills Cop movie, your first time directing a feature. So with that in mind, I'd love to hear about one thing you saw as a filmmaker you felt you had to take from the original 3 Beverly Hills Cop movies to put in this one, and one thing that distinctly was your idea that you wanted to do as a filmmaker for the first time with a feature.
Okay, so really just the first 2 films, which I grabbed a lot of inspiration from. I don't think there is, in terms of like the one thing, I think the tone of the films is probably the most important thing that I tried to grab onto, like getting the tone of those films right, because it was so firmly set there, and I wanted to get that same tone to that film. In terms of what my own thing was, can't think of anything yet. I was very adamant in terms of that tone is I wanted to shoot everything in camera. I wanted to shoot all the action in camera, and I felt that was really important to actually to help create that tone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw so much real LA stuff in there. Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, so many places downtown. I was like, was there anything about LA that was particularly difficult to get permission to film there?
Yes, just about everything.
I was going to say, you don't see this anymore. You don't really see downtown LA captured in camera anymore, for real.
No, it was a struggle. I had the city council and the mayor and the police chief. I mean, we're destroying Rodeo Drive. We have helicopters buzzing the residents for 4 days. I mean, they weren't happy, very, very happy with us. But I think at the end, when they see the movie, Beverly Hills will be famous around the world, which is great.
Oh, absolutely. And this also is like a love letter kind of to current LA and Beverly Hills, like what that montage where Axel first gets there. What do you think were some of the things that really stood out to you when you go to Beverly Hills today versus 3 decades ago and Axel was out there for the first time? What were the things that you were like, we got to put that in the film? That's something that really is today's culture in LA.
I think, yeah, obviously this the whole kind of like everyone kind of with their heads buried in their phones is kind of one thing that's definitely changed about it. There's some things, what I loved about it though, there's some things that haven't changed, some things that haven't changed, but we had a lot of fun with like the influencers and all that sort of stuff too, that when you see going around there now, I was scouting there for a lot and I saw a lot of influencers there. Yeah.
When I saw the little robot go by on the sidewalk, I was like, "Oh my God, I've seen that a million." That's great, good stuff. I love to hear about Jerry. I'm going to come to you with this one first, but I'd love to hear you both answer it. Eddie's ability to perform has just evolved through the decades since the Beverly Hills Cop movies. He's so much more comfortable. His improv is incredible, and he's great in all 4 of these. I'd love to hear about what you think of his evolution as a comedian, as a performer, and how you guys kind of tapped into this for the 4th film.
Well, we knew he had all the comedy in the world. We knew he's just brilliant at improv and making things funny, but we wanted to give him an emotional core, and that's the relationship with his daughter, which is estranged, and how he can fix that. And that's we added some more emotion to this throughout the movie, which is a whole new level for a Beverly Hills Cop movie.
Mm-hmm. Mark, anything about so you could add to it?
Actually, Jerry said that really well, but I think the one thing that for me the thing for me was like Eddie looks so good and everything, and we did everything in camera. It's a bit of a different angle on it, but Eddie, it's been 40 years since Beverly Hills Cop, but I still had him doing everything in camera. He was running, he was diving, he was shooting everyone. He was in all these shootouts. I think he was ready to kill me by the end of it. He did a lot of stuff in camera, but it was really important to me. And so
yeah, that's awesome. Hey Jerry, I feel like every time you do a press tour now, there's something about Pirates of the Caribbean that gets said, whether it's a reboot, whether it's a sequel. I was curious if you'd be willing to maybe clear the air a bit, if you could offer any sort of update on when, where, how, the status of Pirates of the Caribbean at all.
Well, we have a script that's being written right now, and hopefully it'll come in a month or so, and it'll be as good as I think it will be. So let's hope that Disney likes it and they give us an opportunity to make it.
Bronson, thank you so much for talking with me about Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley, Axel F. I'm so excited to talk to you about this movie because I am excited to have seen it. It is fun to go back to this world and see you back in it. So how are you feeling?
Wait a second. Did you say the title of the movie is Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley? Excuse me, but let's just get a level playing field. The title of the movie is Beverly Hills Cop, Ahmed Foley. That is how that's how it needs to be if we're going to get into a groove.
Listen, I speak tradition. I need to speak Serge better. That's on me.
I will tell you something funny. The very first magazine article I ever did, I was 25, and I was 25. It was for Beverly Hills Cop. And I don't remember anything I said because that was half a century ago. So just recently, a young journalist from People magazine, we were doing a Zoom, and I said to him, which I'm going to say to you right now, if you would like to interview Serge at any point, just say the word. And he looked at me for a second and he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "But the very first time you were interviewed in People, the journalist asked you to do that, and you said, 'No, I'm not a performing dog in a circus.'" I said, "Well, I was 25. I mean, are you going to hold me to that?" It sounds like something I would have said at 25, but I mean, anyway, so if you get bored of Bronson, because he's kind of flat, he's not that interesting. A lot of characters floating around in his brain, but if you want to interview Serge at any point, it's easy.
Don't you? I appreciate that because I did have a question for you that I was very for Serge. I was going to save it for the end because I was a little nervous on if it would go well, but and I'm still going to save it for the end.
Nobody should ever be nervous with me because I have no chain link fence anymore. I think I did when I was, starting, because I didn't know what anything was. I mean, people were staring. People were really, like, 5 minutes after the movie came out, I was having a little fruit salad at this place, and there's this kind of leather biker guy and his girlfriend. They'd obviously been up all night, and we were the only three people in the place. So, and I do remember his name because he looks over at me, all haggard, and he goes, "Hey, do the accent." and I said, and isn't that endearing? Like, don't you want to do it? So I said, I think I'm just going to eat my fruit salad. So there's this ghastly long pause. And then his girlfriend, whose back was to me, lots of pimples on her back, she goes, "Maybe he thinks he's too good for you, Vinny."
Oh.
And Vinny says to her, not to me, "Well, then maybe I'll have to kill him." So my eye glides over. It gets better. My eye glides over to the young, terrified woman who's, behind the cash register, and she pantomimes, "Do you want me to call the police?" And I was like, I don't know why I said no, but I said no. So ever so slowly, like when you're attacked by a bobcat and you just have to move slowly, I get into my Jeep. Vinny gets into his car and waits till I get up in the hills and then tries to run me off the road because I said I wouldn't do it. So I just do it now.
What?
That's what it's when you're the reason that you see people like nowadays, if you see any of this crappy footage, poor Ben Affleck, he's walking to his car. He's probably just gone to go get some Metamucil. And he's already got this face on because there's a paparazzo standing in his car going, "Hey, how about you and Jen? Hey, Ben, how about you and Jen?" And he's already got this face like, "I've done this for 40 years. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to suffer." That's what happens if you're not. And then he's had all this practice. I'm 25 years old, sleeping on the floor, no money. I mean, no money, no food. And all of a sudden there's, I'm everywhere. And this guy, Vinny, is going to kill me for not doing the accent. So it's a curve. It's a learning curve, Brandon.
I was going to ask you what if there was a moment back then when it started to set in that the Beverly Hills Cop movie really became a hit. Like if there wasn't, other than seeing numbers or things like that, like if there was a real world moment where you were like, "Oh, wow, people are really responding to this." It sounds like Vinny might have been
Vinny was later on. That when the moment that it happened, and I'll never forget it. So I was, I'm not exaggerating because comics do for comic effect, but I was so poor I couldn't even afford a magazine. So somebody calls me up. The movie had been out for 6 minutes, and somebody called me up and said that you got to go see Newsweek. And I said, "Well, I can't go. I can't afford, what is it, 75 cents? It's 40 years. He goes, go pick up a copy." So I walked from my crappy apartment in Hollywood down Poinsettia Avenue, open Newsweek. It says something like, "A singular actor, unknown actor, does this thing." And so I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." I'm walking home and it's never been repaired because I saw it recently. This cracked, nasty sidewalk in Hollywood, baking under the sun, not a tree for a mile in any direction. And there's a car coming toward me on the asphalt, but then they're screaming, and then they pull up onto the sidewalk and they stop 5 inches from me. And I think I'm going to die. They're all on meth. And instead, they all piled out and started to jump up and down and talk about Serge. And the movie'd been out three minutes. So I always
wow.
And it's funny because there's no comedy writer better than fate. There it was in a nutshell. It was like you could die, or you could get a hug, and you'll never know again. Once you tickle people's funny bones, so they drove onto the sidewalk. They were just excited. They didn't want me to get away.
That's funny, man. I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's also so interesting to hear stories like that from the pre-social media world where it wasn't just everybody wanted a selfie or so. Like there was different. Like you had to go.
Today they did with great dignity and tact. They just would have stalked me. But in the old days, they come up on the sidewalk and they act like they're going to break your hips, and they just wanted hugs.
That's funny.
And and it never stopped. I shortly thereafterward took a residual check that finally arrived, and I'd been so poor for so long, and also I didn't, we're not wired to be stared at without blinking. That's hostile. We're not wired for it. You have to learn how to deal with it. So I finally just ran away, took this residual check, and I went to the mountains of Greece. And then one day I decided I wanted to go to the Acropolis. And I'm like all mellowed out by this time. I've been in the mountains and nobody knows who I am. Nobody bothers me. And so I go down to the Acropolis and I get to the top of the thing. And I'm like, this is really something. And this huge group of Australians just pounced like all the kids in the Peanuts when they like pounce on Charlie Brown's Christmas tree and redecorate it. And they just pounced. I was like, okay, so this is real. Because I'm in Greece and they're from Australia, and I guess it's happened.
Huh. That's incredible though. I mean, that's got to be quite a moment. That's so. In the time since, you went back to the role in '94, and so obviously it's been 30 years now.
30 years.
So it's cool to have back. So before we get to going back to it, was there ever a point along the way where it seemed like they might do another one, and then it didn't happen until now? Like, was there ever almost a false start with the Beverly Hills Cop 4?
This is answering your question, but it's not. When they did Beverly Hills Cop 2, I had the Perfect Strangers, and Jerry Bruckheimer. He didn't mean to. He did, and we just worked together on 4, and he did not understand how it came across, and I did not have the vocabulary to explain it. But he and Tom Cruise were working on, or had just finished Top Gun. I knew Tom from Risky Business. We're all working out in the same little gym. It's a small gym. And I'm at the water cooler, and Jerry comes up to me and says, "Hey, you going to be in Cop 2?" And I said, I don't know. And he said, "Well, I know you got some little TV series. I'll get you out of it." And I was, now see, that's old Bronson. That's 26-year-old Bronson. I was proud of my TV show, and I didn't want someone to say, "I'll get you out of it." So I just decided I didn't want to be in it. And I would be surprised if he even remembered that. He certainly remembers that I didn't want to be in it. But anyway, it was just a turn of phrase. We all do it. I do it myself. You don't realize. But I was very, very hypersensitive. So the good part of that story is, so I didn't do Cop 2, but when Tony Scott, who directed it, was directing True Romance, which was my first opportunity to show what I was capable of without an accent. When I met him, he said, I wanted to work with you on Cop 2. God knows why you didn't do it, but now I'm going to get to work with you. And that was one of the most, I would say, it's the second most important moment in my career. The first one was I'm improvising with Eddie, and it somehow stayed in the film, and it gave me it got me off and running. And then Tony just decided that I should be in True Romance, and I got this juicy, big, wonderful, complex dramatic role, and that kind of permanently took the sting out of, can Bronson do anything other than and so it actually worked out.
Yeah. No, it's funny how it works. So in that time since, so in those 30 years, you've been busy. Eddie's been busy. You guys have been working a lot on other titles. And then you come back now. This scene, the moments where you are in Beverly Hills Cop 4 are just an absolute shot of life to the movie. They were hilarious. Like, I think you've only gotten better over time. And so with that in mind, with you and Eddie's skills growing, evolving, everything you've learned to do on sets, with acting, with performing, what was sort of the differences? Did you guys feel like you brought a lot more? Was it easy to slip back into it?
I'll tell you something that sounds smarmy, but once in a while, the truth is just kind of gooey. I always tell, no, it just sounds, but it's just the way it is. So, the very first thing I shot was Serge pulling up in a Bentley, and then I see Eddie, and I say, "Ah, well," and I run out and give him a hug. And one thing that I always tell, if anyone ever asks me, younger actors say to me sometimes on a set, how do you make every single take different? I want to do that. How do you do that? And I say, "Oh, just don't act." And they say, "What?" And I say, "Acting ruins everything. Don't act. If you can I mean, once in a while you're going to have to act because you're on green screen and you got to pretend that aliens are eating your hips. But if it's not that, if you're not doing special effects, or the person you're opposite got the flu and you have to do it to a piece of tape, don't act. So I'm always so I saw Eddie and I pulled up and I saw him and I really did want to give him a hug, and I went up and I just crushed him and I hugged him, and it was real. And that was special because that was authentic, and I was happy to see him. And then later on that same day, we were just chatting, which was fun. And I was leaning near the Bentley, and I said, "Are you into cars?" And he goes, "I used to be." And he said, "What about you?" I said, I used to be into houses. Like, who has the time? He goes, "Yeah, no." And we were just, just talking as like two people that have been through the whole bell curve of, geez, I'm famous and I've got money. What do I do with it? To like, I've heard him say a couple of times, like, if I don't, I just as soon stay at home and play the guitar, or if it's going to be fun, I'll do it. But, and I used to have all these houses and blah, blah, blah. So we speak a kind of shorthand, because what we were really saying was kind of fun to have like survived and not have all the baggage. And it was really fun. It was really fun. And we always had this chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
We have the chemistry just the same as like, somebody in your family that you need a kidney and they have one. I mean, we just had it. Even though on the first movie, we didn't do anything besides act. We never spoke.
Wow.
He was a giant star and I was a day player, and he had his bodyguard.
Wow.
Who was not, I'm not saying that Eddie positioned him there, but he was standing in between me and Eddie. Mm-hmm. And so I felt, I was probably wrong, but I felt like that meant I shouldn't address him. And so now it's all these years later, and I'm just like, or I would say to him, do you want to do a funny thing? And he was like, I don't know. And then he'd make me laugh, and I would try and make him laugh, and he'd look at me like, that is kind of funny, but I'm not going to laugh because I don't want to like encourage it. It's really fun. I mean, there's such a history.
That's awesome. It just sounds like you two are genuinely good friends, catching up in a sense. And it's because you had an experience nobody else had.
It has become art. Wait, it's become life imitating art, because from the minute he and I walked onto the set in the first one, you would have had to be in an isolation room with a potholder in your mouth, and to not understand that we had instant chemistry. But now it's like, yeah, we got chemistry. What else is going on? It was marvelous. It was so fun. It was so relaxed.
So that sounds like it might have been.
It was genuinely affectionate. That's something I wouldn't have. But he's just, we've both grown up. We're I'm 65 and he must be 62.
It's so cool to see how this came full circle. Maybe, who knows? Maybe there's a Beverly Hills Cop 5 and you guys get to do it again.
So.
I hope so too. Why not? Right? I mean, people are going to watch this. They're going to have fun with it. It'd be fun to see you guys get back to it. But before we get to that, this is the directorial debut for Mark. So yeah. Given you and Eddie seem to have so much chemistry and comfort working together, and I think, it sounds like it was a fun set to be on. I would love to hear about working with Mark, and because I know you and Eddie, I'm sure, like you just said, don't act. You like to do things differently. You like to do these, like you improv quite a bit. How was it with Mark in his directorial debut? Was he kind of trying to keep up? Was he wrangling you guys? Was he injecting into the improv? I mean, I'd love to hear about that.
What I can tell you about Mark was his excitement, and he was like, I'm very perceptive. He looked like a little boy on Christmas who got the helicopter he wanted. So as soon as I saw that, I just melted. And I accommodated him in ways that I just had to, because he was such a bright-eyed, excited little guy. But he's not a little guy. He's a grown man, but he has such an exuberance. So I could hear a voice in my head, in the back of my head saying, oh God, no. But I would say yes to him. So when I first met him, he goes, I can't do the Australian accent, but he wanted me to have hair kind of like Rod Stewart. And I thought, I don't want to have hair like Rod Stewart, but I said, okay. And then he wanted me in this really, exaggerated, loud outfit with tight white pants. And I said, cool. And it's a wonderful thing because, in a way, when all is said and done, as an actor, you are like a dog being taken to the park by your director. Mm-hmm. And you have to poo where you're told to poo, and you have to come home when it's time to come home. And if you are happy to do that, then you get another walk. So I found it, he would know what I was talking about if he heard me, but I found it to be so touching that he was so fresh the way I was when I made the first Beverly Hills Cop. I never said no to him. And I enjoyed it because it wasn't even a possibility. Mm-hmm. I would occasionally hear a voice in the back of my head say, what? I'm not sure I would do it that way. But I was like, okay, Mark. And so it was freeing, very freeing. And that is his due. And having done it, I'm like, well, you can do that all the time. It's not that I say no very often, but I don't believe in it anymore. Mm. But I don't, in this particular case, I was like, he's got so much that he's holding up. He's like Atlas holding up the world. You have an idea, you could just show him. Don't coagulate what's in his head. That was very freeing.
That's awesome. And then meanwhile, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, not that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's not funny, but when I saw him with you and Eddie in the same scene and you're doing the name bit, I was like, oh, good luck keeping up with these two.
I'll tell you what's adorable about that whole thing is that I was a guest starred on Third Rock from the Sun when he was 15. And he was a wonderful young actor. You would never, young actors he was so centered. It was impressive and wonderful. And he was so chill and such an accomplished actor. And he's the same person. He's the same person now. He's chill. He's open. He's collaborative. He's grown up. He was always that way. But I looked at him when there was some hot day, we were sitting and I was like, this is wild. I'm working with you 30 years later. He has 2 or 3 kids now. And I was like, how can this be? Because your kids are half as old as you were when I first. So it's just kind of somebody very, very, very witty. When I was first starting out, I did this TV show, an episode of a TV show with Carrie Fisher. And Carrie was like impossibly funny. And we were watching TV once and she said, oh, yeah, I've worked with him. Oh, there she is. She's amazing. Oh, wow. There he is. He must be off drugs. Look at him. And so I looked at her and she said, you'll see in 30 years, all TV and movies turns into a liquid scrapbook. Everybody, their shtick. You've worked with them. You've slept with them. Oh, she was she was so right, but she said it with such incredible wit.
That's funny.
If you want to hear a really great Carrie Fisher story, I'll tell you one later, but you probably have more questions that are pertinent.
Well, I have 2 last questions for you. The last one was about that scene with Joseph, where you do bring back Serge's the name bit, and you mispronounce the name. And I was curious how much of that was improvised. I assume that must have been in the script, but just getting to go back to that, do a 2024 version of it, that gag that's really popular, that really blew up. What was that like for you?
Well, I will tell you something, and this is also this is a credit to Mark. When we first shot it, I was quasi-improvising, and I must have done 5 or 10 different versions. Then Mark wanted to refine it a bit, so he took me by myself to an underpass in downtown LA and put a green screen behind me and fed me. See, this is what I mean. I hope he knows, and I hope he's happy to hear this, but he gave me the version of it that he wanted me. I don't know if he picked something that I had done, or if he took something that I had done and wanted to tweak it a little. But he basically stood off camera with a green screen behind me and said, no, I want you to mispronounce it like this. So he gave me this little rhythm that he wanted, and I did it. And if you had told me 20 years ago, somebody would be telling me how to riff, I would have said, that's weird. But you see, he just was so sweet. He wanted it, and I did it. So I don't know exactly what take is in there, but this is there's so many great things about staying with it and getting older that you think, yeah, okay, now what do you want? What do you want to do? And then he's doing it with this Australian accent. At times I said to him, can you spell that? But God bless him. He was just he was so enthusiastic. He would light up if he liked something. And we did do the Rod Stewart hair, kind of, and the wig didn't quite fit. It was the Rod Stewart color. The wig didn't quite fit. And again, I think 30 years ago, I would have been like, why am I wearing a wig that doesn't fit? The hair stylist, Marie, who also did Ryan Gosling and Barbie, said to me, for the love of God, every couple of minutes, you have to do this because the back is sticking up. And I said, okay. And she said, like, that's it? You're just going to do that? And I said, yeah. And she said, you're not going to make me like grovel? I said, no, because it's a great thing for the character to do, number one. And number two, we'll always remember when we see the movie that the wig didn't fit. So I had to do that. But that's a great thing for Serge to do. I don't know if any of it's in there. Maybe they worked around it.
Had you seen Barbie by the time you were working on this? Was it already out?
I had not seen it. I've seen clips.
Oh, okay.
So did a brilliant job on him.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. Like how much trust you had because you knew of something like that, like the success of Barbie and the look of Barbie.
I will tell you exactly. I will tell you, and you can put this in your scrapbook. When I first met Marie, I was a little bit apprehensive, not about her, but because she had sent me a text and said they forgot to order a wig for you. A wig takes five weeks to make. They forgot. There was too much going on. They forgot. So we're going to have to use a secondhand wig. And that's almost like a secondhand condom in a way, because it's got to be the size of your head. So she knows actors really well. I had to drive an hour and a half to the meeting with her and Mark. And, my stomach was getting tied up in knots because I thought, a secondhand wig. But this is a great thing for everybody that hears me to do. She's a tiny little dynamo. And when I opened the door to the meeting, she didn't say hello. She didn't put out her hand. She said, no matter what it takes, we're going to make this work. And I thought, okay, now I'm in love. So we put on the secondhand wig. She did a million things to it to make it work. And that took away all possible conversation and worrying and everything. It was like, no matter what, we're going to make this work. I mean, who doesn't love that? So, of course, it did work.
I love stories like this. My inner film geek loves hearing the sort of behind the scenes, what makes it work, how all these things come together. I love hearing stories like that, man. That's fun. And that's also such a great attitude to have. I mean, that immediately puts you at ease, like you just said. That's awesome.
They were magic words. And I think she knows enough about actors to know that over the course of a 90-minute ride, once I found out what we're going to have to do, of course, there was this, do you remember in Fantasia, Night on Bald Mountain, and that big thing with the big weird nipples goes like, yeah. So there was that coming up inside me. And then all of a sudden she said that. And I hope I have an opportunity to use it many times in my own life, because it just pulled the rug out from the anxiety. And, he doesn't need to have it. It doesn't matter what hair Serge has. Okay. Wait, are you going to not interview him?
Oh, that was my next question for you. Oh, I was wondering if Serge should come to the phone real quick.
Yes. Hold on.
I wanted to introduce myself to Serge and see what Serge might think of my name. Hi, Serge. Nice to meet you.
How you are doing today? Your hair looks fluffy.
Thank you. I could use a little bit of a haircut. It's getting a little curly up top, I think.
No, what I need to do is instead, you should take, do you have product?
Oh, yes. Yeah, a little bit of gel here. Nothing too stiff.
What's your name?
I'm Brandon Davis. I'm with Comic Book. I just talked to Bronson.
Okay, too much talking, Brandon. So what you do when I'm telling you how to do this style of you to have to get sexy, you don't talk. I talk. Okay, so first thing we have to do is dip the heat, the whole heat, in some kind of depilatory to take the mustache in this groove. This shirt has to go. We take all this off and then we shave all the way to here so that you are completely like a hister head. Then from here, it's going to get a comb and push into a box. Down here, all the hair has to go. And then we put you in a lycra sarong and you just sell it. I don't also think maybe we draw the eyebrow together because this is it just works. Maybe, do you have any hearing that can come down to the nipple? Like,
what that could come down to the where now?
What happened here? Oh, someone tried.
I appreciate it. I'm not sure I'm under.
First, don't when you're speaking and you try to make sense, don't say appreciate it because this is very silly. What you want to do? Where are you? Where are you, Brandon? Yes. What you want to do is stay masculine. You don't want to start using the falsetto. Also, don't put that away because, yeah. Oh God, the arms. No, the whole thing of you has to be smooth except for the heart that starts here. The heart of hair goes out, up, because if you're thinking of Grace Jones, circa 1983, this is correct. And everything else smooth and severe.
Smooth
with one hearing that come all the way and Grace, we can attach to the nipple. This is going to make it so whenever someone's saying to you, Brandon Davies from comic, whatever, then you pull like this and you pull it up. It's so chic.
Oh, yes, you're 100% right. Now, real quick, I know you recently reunited with your friend Axel Foley.
Ahmed Foley. Ahmed.
Tomato ketchup. So
Ahmed
Foley. I was just curious, how was it reuniting with your friend Ahmed Foley in Beverly Hills? After 30 years of not seeing each other.
Well, the first thing is he's wearing, he's completely stuck in a look from. Why don't he just listen to Eminem? Because he in the look with the t-shirt, talk, and the shoes, and everything needs to be streamlined, and it needs to be. I think he would look so good in how you say it's no magenta, fuchsia. Do you know this color, fuchsia?
It's a fuchsia. It's like fuchsia is fuchsia.
So what I want to do with him, because he needs to have extreme body paint.
Oh.
So that he is nude with just one feather here, and then everything else is paint. Because he have a look that is sloppy and relaxed, but it doesn't say something. If he's body paint and he has one little tiny lime green feather, then it's going to say, I feel my sack.
Yes. Well, Serge, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
He's gone. I don't know where he comes. I will tell you that I don't know where
he comes from. He just disappears.
I don't know where he comes from, and I don't know where he goes. But I will tell you that one of the reasons he comes so freely is that a couple of years ago they started this thing called Cameo.com. Unfortunately, Giuliani and George Santos have made it kind of scuzzy, but everybody always wants a pep talk from Serge, or they want, and I always, no matter what they ask for, I always give them a makeover, even though I can't see them.
Yeah.
And he just pops in and then he pops out. I have no idea where he comes from or why he says what he says. I'm not even sure what I just said, but that's just the way it is.